The divergence of individual perspectives creates inevitable conflicts, with such tensions offering distinct interpretations of human qualities, exposing harsh realities and hidden anomalies within the human experience. This is exemplified in Arthur Miller's 1953 play, The Crucible, which mirrors the 17th century Salem witch trials, where the collective pursuit of self-preservation, driven by the contextual prioritization of one's reputation, corrupts the absolute ideals of justice and truth, revealing the inconsistent flaws in human nature, fallible to dominant societal pressures. However, there are still individuals whose motivation is to tell the truth, even through self-sacrifice, that causes inevitable conflict which exposes the inconsistencies and anomalies of human experience. The collective drive for self-preservation, shaped by the contextual emphasis on personal reputation, distorts justice, exposing humanity's vulnerability to prevailing societal influences. Specifically, in Act 4, the conflicting perspective between ministers and Governor Danforth regarding the delaying of the trials, "I should hang 10,000 that dared to rise against the law," illuminates the inconsistencies within the justice system. Through the hyperbolic threat to hang 10,000 solely for the reason of challenging the law, Miller reveals the anomalies of a governor's motivation being simply to preserve his reputation, prioritizing it over the truth and the life of others. Danforth's refusal to acknowledge the trial's inconsistencies highlights the pernicious nature of motivation for authority, which causes behaviors that corrupt justice. In addition, his failure to uphold his legal responsibilities as an authority figure and his succumbing to the pressures of upholding his reputation emphasizes the play's underlying commentary on the fragility of societal structures. Consequently, the distortion of justice becomes a plausible outcome. Similar to Danforth, Abigail chooses to fixate on her self-preservation rather than enabling the truth as she exclaims with an accusatory tone, "I witnessed Sarah Good with the devil. I saw Goody Osborne with the devil. I saw Bridget Bishop with the devil." The repetition of "with the devil" symbolizes the anomaly of Abigail desperately trying to deflect blame and shift her sins onto others, highlighting her deceitful nature and the lengths she goes to protect herself and salvage her reputation even if it distorts the truth. Following the collective pursuit of self-preservation, Tituba also chooses to falsely confess, which also corrupts justice, as it becomes another piece of evidence that fuels the authorities' misguided pursuit of justice when she fervently denies accusations against her. "You lie, devil, you lie." By metaphorically comparing those who accuse her of being a devil, Miller amplifies her deception, ironically juxtaposing her performance of truth and justice. Through the nuanced character dynamics in Miller's portrayal, he illuminates the flaws in the Salem community's powerful instinct for self-preservation and reputation, regardless of the truth, even if it ends someone's life. As illustrated by the Salem witch trials, the consequences of such behavior reverberate through, underscoring the collective prioritization of personal gain, and even those with authority are swept by the tide of social pressure, ultimately demonstrating the vulnerability of human nature. These actions are driven by the collective fear and desire to conform, reflecting the societal pressures during the trials, paralleling Miller's contemporary age of McCarthyism, where even the Army and Senator McCarthy crumble as a result of an unhealthy obsession with one's reputation. Contrasting those who conform to dominant societal assumptions for self-preservation are individuals who value truth and integrity, even against threats of inevitable conflict and death, to bring anomalies in human experience to light. Specifically, the internal conflict between Proctor's inconsistent motivations for truth and self-preservation when faced with the dilemma of confessing to witchcraft, because it is my name. Because I cannot have another in my life. Because I lie and sign myself to lies. Through the use of anaphora, because Miller effectively emphasizes the paramount importance of integrity to him. This internal conflict, laid bare through Proctor's tormented reflections, underscores the agony he experiences, fully aware that his actions will lead to his demise, leaving behind his family. However, the intrinsic value of truth surpasses everything, even the sanctity of his own life, as Proctor is willing to be hanged to prove the innocence of his name. "I have given you my soul, leave me my name." The metaphor, "given you my soul," and the repetition of "my name," underscores his spiraling mental state while maintaining his prioritization of the truth. Despite initial inconsistencies, he proves his morality by sacrificing himself to raise the anomalies of the trials, in a society that prioritizes personal gain above all else. Moreover, his behavior becomes the crucible which not only confronts the societal norms that allowed falsehoods to flourish but also serves as a beacon, guiding the community back to justice, which had been eroded by fear and self-interest. Similarly, Giles would rather face death than be an accessory to injustice. I will not give you no name. I mentioned my wife's name once and I'll burn in hell long enough for that. Through the double negative, I will not give you no name, Miller epitomizes his lethal defiance towards the abnormal justice, highlighting his motivation to protect the innocent, even in the face of death, showcasing his commitment to challenge the paradoxical and inconsistency within the witch trial. The metaphorical imagery of, "I'll burn in hell," conveys his deep remorse for paradoxically mentioning his wife's name, further intensifying his motivation for truth. Like Proctor, Giles's willingness to scarify himself for justice and refusal to comply with the oppressive demands of authority demonstrates his commitment to exposing the anomalies and inconsistencies in human motivation, serving as a defiant stance against the prevailing corruption. This portrayal of individuals who prioritize the greater good over personal safety serves as a powerful force in uncovering the truth and dismantling injustices. Hence, despite the initial inconsistencies in their motivations, leading to paradoxical behaviors and internal conflicts, Proctor's and Giles' motivation for truth uncovers the anomalies surrounding the Salem witch trials, prompting audiences to view the world differently by challenging our understanding of morality. Expressing one's cultural voice means showing individual cultural values, which shapes individual identity and reinforces common cultural assumptions shared by a collective. This is exemplified in Rob Sitch's 1997 comedy film, The Castle, which follows the story of Daryl Kerrigan, who is the underdog fighting against institutional power to save his home from being an eminent domain in a society that perpetuates class division, exemplifying the universal value for home, justice, and the preservation of one's cultural heritage. Despite these hardships, the neighborhood's support for each other during compulsory home acquisition illustrates beauty mateship, emphasizing the importance of cultural bonds, shared identity and cultural voice in the face of economic adversity. Due to long-standing socio-economic disparity, Australia has developed a culture that values the underdog but supports the pervasiveness of prejudices towards those from lower socio-economic levels, stemming from a history marked by colonialism and British superiors. Specifically, in the scene where Daryl argues the case against his eviction. Even though a court is typically regarded as a symbol of justice, Daryl experiences a sense of injustice when he finds himself facing compulsory home acquisition, an action that deeply contradicts his understanding of fairness and property rights, which makes him feel as though his voice is not being heard by his government, causing him to use derogatory language, bloody common sense. Through Daryl's dialogue, it becomes apparent that he identifies as a blue-collar Coolaroo, also known as a typical Aussie battler, who has to fight for his rights despite being at a disadvantage when up against white-collar workers, who benefit from their economic capital with high authority. This affirms the socio-economic inequality and class struggles that were rooted in Australian culture during his time. Moreover, in Steve's conversation with Daryl about the house deal, Daryl dismisses the idea with a curt, "Tell him he's dreamin'," underscoring the financial constraints faced by blue-collar workers, who lack the privilege to indulge in extravagant dreams. The satirical tone highlights the visible perpetuation of stereotypes. Even those from lower social strata recognize and accept these stereotypes as it is wildly spread in the Australian culture. However, Daryl symbolizes the resilient mindset of blue-collar individuals amid economic hardships, while simultaneously exposing the harsh truth of their societal marginalization based on social class. The struggle is further emphasized in the scene where Daryl is at the courthouse fighting for his rights. The low-angle shots of Daryl's argument with the judge amplify the powerlessness a blue-collar worker experiences when facing a powerful institution, emphasizing the contrast of power in the courtroom and the struggle of an underdog. Furthermore, the awkward silence that follows Denuto's amateurish defense of the compulsory acquisition with the phrase, It's Just the Vibe of It highlights the class-based challenges faced by lower-class citizens when seeking justice, with which they lack the finances to seek the proper register to convey their thoughts before a judge. This portrayal invites viewers to critically examine the disparity between the legal system and the individuals like Daryl. Notwithstanding the challenges he faces, Daryl remains resolute in ensuring that his cultural voice resonates, as evidenced by his commitment to save his home. As a result, the audience is prompted to question the extent to which cultural assumptions about justice and social equity align with realities, thus encouraging a nuanced perspective on the prevailing cultural values of the nation, and affirming the common stereotype of underdogs during the 1990s Australia, who struggle being of their low socioeconomic status having to fight and find their way to be heard. Furthermore, mateship holds a central and unifying role in the Australian culture, fostering solidarity among individuals of diverse ethnicities while also reinforcing communal values that promote shared experiences and harmony on a collective level. Specifically, in the scene where Daryl teams up with his neighbors in search of strategies to overturn the compulsory acquisition. The employment of a sequence of back-and-forth cuts between Daryl's articulate explanations and his neighbors' attentive listening evokes a sense of urgency and agency in the cultural voices that are trying to find justice as they suffer together in the tight space of the dingy shed, demonstrating the Australian value of comradeship by highlighting the solidarity of a minority community. The notion of mateship is further emphasized when Daryl's friend, Lawrence, a specialist in Australian constitutional law, offers to help Daryl for free in the court case. The dialogue of Lawrence, IWOU. LD like to appear on your behalf, gratis, no fee, alongside a mid-shot focusing on his genuine facial expression and sincere body language, serves as a powerful cultural voice that affirms the common stereotype of the strong bond mateship in Australian culture. His altruistic attitude in representing Daryl without charge exemplifies the indelible cultural value of friendship, particularly in times of adversity, thus showcasing his support for his mate and the cultural values of justice. This is made even more apparent in the scene where Kerrigans and their neighbors celebrate their win in the court case. Through the proud facial expression of Daryl's lawyer, Danuto, where he gets emotional and teary-eyed, the audience is granted a glimpse into the deep sense of loyalty and camaraderie with his mate, Daryl. Danuto's proud expression as a cultural voice, affirming the Australian stereotype of mateship and underscoring how this value empowers individuals to fiercely support their friends and loved ones, regardless of the circumstances. Hence, through the process of searching for justice, the cultural voices of Daryl's neighbors and friends inspire viewers to recognize the potency of supportive relationships in overcoming challenges. This portrayal not only underscores the cultural significance of mateship in Australian society but also prompts the audience to reflect on the strength of united communities in shaping identities and navigating adversity. Through these depictions, the audience is encouraged to affirm the importance of mateship as an intrinsic part of their cultural heritage, fostering a sense of belonging and shared values.